Hi, I'm Steve McCord, Cattaraugus County Director of Veteran Services, and this is Our Veterans, Their Stories, preserving our heroes' stories, one story at a time.
I graduated from Salamanca High in 1966. In November of '66, I joined the Marine Corps. I did a 4-year stint in the Corps, got out for a couple of years, and then I did another 2-year stint, 76 through 78. I joined because I wasn't going to go to college right away. And I was working in one of them furniture factories down in Salamanca over the summer. And a friend of mine graduated with me. We decided we wanted to get in the military and see the world, so be it, get out of the factory work. And I was only 17 when I graduated, so I never got drafted. I did check years later, just for the heck of it. My draft number was 13, so I would have got drafted anyway. Probably been in the Army and down in the Mekong somewhere. But so anyways, a friend and I, we joined in the buddy system. Unfortunately, he didn't make it, toward the end. But we went to Parris Island, South Carolina. Little unbeknownst to myself and my friend, the day we got recruited on was November 10th, 1966, which is the Marine Corps birthday. So they must have had some kind of a promotional push at that time. So anyways, we go up to Olean where the recruiting office was up above the post office, and we ended up joining the Corps. Well, being only 17, I had to have Mom and Dad's permission, so I can't remember the recruiter's name now, but he came down to Salamanca. We sat around at the kitchen table, and I remember my dad asking I think he was a gunnery sergeant, asking the recruiter, says, "What's John's chances of going to Vietnam?" Because the Nam War was going on. And the recruiter says, "Oh, probably about 10%. So Dad and Mom, they signed the papers. I joined with the stipulation. I joined for 4 years if they'd get me in the air wing and send me to electronics, some type of electronics training. So I go down to Parris Island. It was a train ride back in them days. Now they fly, I guess, but it took about a day and a half, 2 days to get down there. We stopped in Harrisburg, Washington, Richmond, all the way down. And we get to Charleston, and then we took a Greyhound bus from Charleston, South Carolina to Parris Island, which was another hour and a half. Unfortunately, I was the first guy off the bus, and drill instructor says, "Run, you son of a you-know-what." And I remember going in there, and we're emptying all our possessions, and me and my buddy looked. He was across the room from me, and the first thing in our mind was, "What in the hell are we doing here?" So, anyways, we get through the basic training. I get stationed up in. Well, I had to go through ITR, Advanced Infantry Training, in Lejeune area, North Carolina. Yeah. I'm sure they'd probably did it at Pendleton too if you were from the western United States. But ours was at Camp Geiger, which was a part of Camp Lejeune, and that was a month of doing different things, getting indoctrinated in different weapons and tactics. We got to shoot flamethrowers and hold a bazooka, and we had grenade practice. Different things, Then we'd have there'd be little bleachers out in the woods, and we'd sit there and have classroom stuff on field sanitation and different things. And I remember one time they purposely let us down this through the it was like pine forest there in North Carolina. They let us down through this ravine, and other bunch ambushed us with blanks. And, just to let us know what it's like. So, different things like that. Booby traps, learn, different things like that. And then they did send me to Memphis, Tennessee, Naval Air Station, Millington, for, I was about 6-7 months of avionics. I was an avionics technician, ComNav, for helicopters or C-130s. And my first squadron was New River, North Carolina, which is, they're in the Camp Lejeune area. I was in a Huey outfit. I remember it was the summer of '68, and I'm 19 now. And I got orders for Vietnam. And of course, I went to staging battalion in Camp Pendleton for a month in California, where they indoctrinated us on Nam and had us going up and down hills, mock POW camps, all kinds of that stuff, getting ready for Vietnam. I get over to Vietnam, and they stuck me in a place called Quang Tri, which was the farthest north air base, I guess. Just helicopters, all we had. We were up by the DMZ. And my first experience when I got off the, I think it was a C-130 landed. Yeah, C-130s could land there, and helicopters. And my first experience was hearing machine gun fire in the perimeter and how hot it was. Body bags, ready to go back to Da Nang. That was my first experience. I remember a guy taking me around to show, so I could get my gear. And I heard a couple booms, and I started flinching, and he says, "That's outgoing." It was one of our howitzers was shooting out. And he says, "That's outgoing, don't worry." And I said, "Well, how can you tell between outgoing and incoming?" He says, "You'll know." And occasionally we would get rocket or mortar attacks in the beginning, and then there was a lull for a long time, and then toward the end there was more. They say every Marine's a basic rifleman, so even though I had a ComNav designation, when I got over there I was issued all the stuff, the helmet, well, I had an M14 when I first got there, and then we switched to the M16. I did get perimeter duty. Sometimes you get mess duty, like KP, or guard duty, or different duties until you've been there a while. And I did get to go out on perimeter watch out in the bunkers at night, which was not really my favorite thing to do, but we did what we had to do. Anyways, I get in the squadron, and I was in a Huey outfit in the States, and they put me in a CH-46 Sea Knight. So it's the longer helicopter the Navy and the Marines use. It's got the tandem rotors on it. And after I'd been there for a while, I volunteered to fly guns. So for most of my time over there, if I was on the ground, I was doing avionics, but most of the time I flew, and I had a 50 cal machine gun is what I fired. Had some close incidences. I lost 4 good friends over there that were just in our avionics shop alone. 2 outright died. One guy got his whole leg taken off in another incident, and then one guy had he had 3rd-degree burns on 70% of his body. And that's just in my shop, the avionics shop. I mean, there was mechanics and hydraulics and different people that got it. But I don't know, I was pretty lucky. I had bullet holes all around me, up through the floor. One missed my foot by a couple inches. The guy behind me, the gunner behind me, were back to back. When we landed, he had a 50 cal slug, must have been a spent one, lodged in his flight helmet on the back of it. And we couldn't find the hole on my side. So it had to fly. It had to have gone through my gun window, and I'm thinking, I'm going a certain speed in a certain direction. That bullet's going a certain speed in a certain direction. I'm thinking, just a fraction of an inch off either way, it could have got me probably right between the running lights. I think about that a lot. Sometimes we'd fly from sun up to sundown. When I was flying, I flew just about every day. We'd come back to the rear at night. We'd go to the mess hall, and they'd have what they call mid-rats for flight crews. We'd get something to eat. And it was pretty scary thinking about, sometimes I was more afraid of thinking about the next day than I was when I was actually up there. But we had several missions. Resupply was one of them. Ammo, sea rats, jerry cans of water. Another mission was recon insertion, recon extraction. Recon extraction was kind of hairy. Them guys are all painted up, and by the time I would go get them, they're kind of found already. And we had some close calls picking them up out in the middle of nowhere. We had troop lifts, mostly Marines. We did a couple ARVN troop lifts, and we had to watch them because they had one of them stole my survival knife, and because I took my eye off him, I was on the gun. And the crew chief used to check the aircraft, the chopper, after they'd leave down the ramp. They were known to wedge grenades and stuff in there, and then when you took off, it started vibrating. It could go off. So I didn't trust the ARVNs. And
weren't they our allies?
Yeah, but I didn't trust them. I think they're about the same as the Afghan army. But
explain.
Well, I think they were chicken. They didn't want to fight. I had more respect for the NVA, mostly NVA regulars where I was at. Not too many VC. We're way up north. And they had a cause, and they were good fighters. And but the South Vietnamese, I mean, I'm saying they are all bad, but look how long it took them to capitulate after we left. That's why I likened them almost to the Afghans, because it didn't take long. The other mission we did was the medevacs. We'd pick up wounded, walking wounded. You could pick up KIAs. The real bad ones, we'd take them out to the hospital ships. There were 2 hospital ships out in international waters. The Sanctuary and the Repose, and we'd land on their little helipads, and the nurses would come out, and then they'd hand us bags with goodies in them, like sandwiches and oranges and 7-Up, stuff you couldn't get. And they were actually American women. We see too many American women in them. So that part of it I enjoyed, and the fact that we weren't getting shot at because we're over water. The part I didn't like about it is why we had to go there. But I remember we had these, we're all issued flak jackets, but the flight crew had what they called bullet bouncers. They were armor about 1 inch or 2 thick on both sides. And whenever we flew over the water, we'd take our armor off in case we went down, But a lot of the guys used to wear the flak jacket and sit on the bullet bouncer. They didn't want anything coming up through the bottom.
When the bombing stopped in the north, what did you think about conditions?
I was pissed off because I just got there, and Johnson, LBJ, was our president. And the North Vietnamese, their artillery could just about reach the northern part of our base, our runway. And when they stopped the bombing, they must have moved their artillery down a little bit, and then we were getting hit more. And that kind of ticked me off because, I was a young guy at the time, and I didn't know what I know now. But I look back at it, it was all political. But I got through it. I survived. There were some real scary incidences. Even in the rear, like I said, we'd take incoming. Toward the end, we were pulling out. The 3rd Marines that supported us, they pulled out first. We were left, and we had nothing but Arvin supporting us. And that's when we started taking a little more incoming, and I'm thinking, I'm getting kind of short here. I want to get home, and this is happening to me. But ended up down in Fubai for the last month, which is near Huey. And then I shipped to Okinawa for a couple days, maybe 3 or 4 days, and then back to the States. And I did 11 more months, and I processed out. We landed at LAX, Los Angeles International. It was in the winter. We had our green winter uniforms on, sea bags. We're going down this moving walkway. And then there's a big gap, and there's another walkway going the other way. And there's like railings. And as we were coming in, all the hippies were coming out. They knew when our flight came in, and they were calling us baby killers and warmongers. Some of my Marine buddies that either they're on different flights, some of them even threw like rotten tomatoes and different things at them. But I remember back in them days we didn't have cell phones, so I got on a payphone. I called my dad. I was going to tell him I had to do a red-eye flight into Chicago and pick me up at Buffalo Airport in the morning. First thing he said is, John, I've been away for a long time, about 14, 15 months. And he says, the sentiment's changed in this country since you left. I says, yeah, I found that out already. So that was my welcome home was, you know, you're a baby killer, you're a warmonger. There was no parades for us, so that kind of hurt a little bit too. And I was angry. I had a chip on my shoulder for a long time.
The Corps gave you no warning? As you were
Never got a warning. Nope. So that's basically my Marine Corps experience. I did a couple years as a civilian, and things weren't going good for me, so I did re-up for 2 more years, with the stipulation that you send me to the West Coast. I was married at the time, and my son was preschool, and we were stationed in Santa Ana chopper facility, which was in Orange County near LA. And I did 2 years there, and I was going to re-up for 6 more years, and they decided they were going to they said I could stay there for at least a year, and then they would send me to Okinawa for a year without my family. And I thought, that's not a very good deal. And I lived in Huntington Beach, off base, and the post office was across the road. And I remember on a whim, a few months earlier, I took a postal exam, and they hired me. And for a month, I was in the Marines and a mail postal worker, because I used annual leave. They wanted me right away. So I stayed there for maybe a year and a half longer, and then I transferred to the Olean post office, and the rest is history. Back in the 80s, I went to JCC nights. Actually, when I was out in the West Coast, when I was still in the Corps on that second stint, I went to Golden West Community College for a couple semesters, and plus a summer. I did it in the summer too. I took different courses. And then when my wife and my daughter was born in the Long Beach Navy Hospital. There was almost 6 years between my son's age and her age. And we came back here, and in the 80s I was going to JCC mostly nights, because I was working full-time at the Olean post office. So I would say I've got the equivalent of 2 years, although I didn't get an associate's degree. I will say this, I'm very anti-war now. When I got back, I was anti-war. Not right away, but you know, I used to believe everything I read in the newspapers. And When I was on the ground, like if I was testing radios, like in the rear, the HF radio, the high frequency one, we could go around the world on them almost. And we used to get body counts. Voice of America would give us a number of how many we killed and how many of us got killed. BBC, Radio Moscow, and Radio Peking would all be different, but they'd all be pretty close to the same. We were the only one that was different. I think we inflated some of that stuff. And at first I wrote off Moscow and Peking as being communism, but BBC was pretty close to the same. So I started getting a little mistrust and all that when I got back. And I'll say this, I got back in November of '69. My uncle Jack and my two cousins and I went deer hunting over in Killbuck near Salamanca. And I had a buck stop, look right at me. He wasn't that far away. I pulled the trigger and missed him. I started shaking and everything. I haven't owned or fired a weapon since that day in 1969. I had enough of it. I'm tired of it. Someone might shoot me, but I'm not going to shoot anybody else. And that's why you keep an aluminum softball bat under your bed. So that's my take on that. I'm anti-war. I'd feel bad today if I ran over a chipmunk in the road. That's just the way I feel. And I just think war is hell. It sucks.